Hello, my name is Keshwani. That's Keshwani, Keshwani. We are here because we want to prepare for the SAT. We have been solving math problems out of this book here, the official SAT study guide, the second edition. If you do not own this book already, purchase one immediately. You're going to need it. The problem that we are about to solve is the one that you will find on page number 399. Today is our lesson number 11. The problem that we are about to solve is number 12. We are given a chart here, so I'm going to put the chart here. Here's the depth, and here's the pressure. And we're given the depth in every 15 feet, 30 and 45. That's all it is, very simple. 14, 21, 28 and 34. Don't worry about 34.725. Nobody's going to give you extra freaking credit for that. Forget about that, okay? Don't make your life miserable. Just because they make it annoying doesn't mean that you have to let them annoy you. This is good enough. This is good enough. We're just looking for a shape of the chart. Exact readings are of no importance. The question simply is, if the pressure increases at a constant rate for every foot of descent, as you can see there, which of the following graph describes the given data? Which of the following graph describes the given data? Well, let's see. The very first thing we notice is that, we notice is very straightforward, which is, the deeper we go, the higher the pressure. That's all it is. That's all we're looking for. The deeper we go, higher the pressure. We're going to go through one by one all the charts and see until we come across one that works. Let's look at A. Here's your pressure and here's your depth. On the x-axis we are measuring depth, on the y-axis we are measuring pressure. So what does A say? What does the graph in A say? The graph in A says that when the depth is 0, right here the depth is 0, this is depth, so this is right here is 0. It says when the depth is 0, a 0 depth means you are at the surface level, at the sea surface level. It says you have a great deal of pressure at the surface level, and then as deeper you go in the ocean, as the depth gets higher and higher, deeper you go in the ocean, the lower the pressure. This is nonsensical. This is the exact opposite of what we have there. The pressure goes up the deeper you go in the ocean. This is no good. This is no good. This was what I would call a... Shall we learn a word? Why not? Let's learn a word. Let's learn a vocab word. A charlatan. What's a charlatan? I wonder if I actually covered this thing in my vocabulary videos. I'm very curious. It's a good word to know for the SAT. A charlatan is a quack. That was not the real chart. That was, it looked like it was in the right shape, but it was going in the wrong directions. Instead of going, we want the pressure to go up as the depth goes up. As the depth goes up, the pressure has to go up, not go down. So it looked like it was the right chart, but it was of the wrong slope. Charlatan. It'll be very difficult to find this thing right now. Oh, what do you know? There are certain words that I use more often in my speech, and those are the words that I covered in my vocabulary video, so it turns out I must have used it before, therefore I covered it. Day number 5. A charlatan is a quack. This is a real word, I'm not making it up. An imposter. A fraud. So in A, what we saw, it looked like the real thing, but it was an imposter. A quack, a charlatan, and it wasn't the real thing. Let's look at B. Make sure you watch that video. Just type in my name, Keshwani, and just type in vocabulary, day 5. Just type in vocabulary day 5, and even without my name, probably it will pop up. You'll see there. What does B say? Let's take a look at it. I haven't drawn it yet. We cannot talk about it until I draw it. So here's your pressure, here's your depth, and B goes something like this. Well, this is interesting. This is the same exact thing as before. This is even more nonsensical, because not only here we have a situation where the pressure drops as the depth increases, but there is such a thing as a negative depth. I don't know what they mean by negative depth, because it's going in the negative territory. A depth is a depth. I mean, 0 would be the surface area, and then the rest of it is just depth. Oh, sorry, not a negative depth, rather. I take it back. A negative pressure. This y-axis is the pressure. It becomes a negative pressure. Not only the pressure drops, but it says if you go in the ocean deep enough, the pressure becomes negative. There is no such thing as the negative pressure, and the pressure does not drop as you go deeper in the ocean. This is nonsensical. Let's look at C. Ah, C looks like a real McCoy. At least we have a graph that goes in the right direction. There we go. Here is your pressure, and here is your depth. As you can see, as the depth increases, the pressure increases. Voila! I think we found a winner. That's it. That's your answer. Or is it? Stop and think about it for a second. This graph starts at the origin. Starts at the origin. What does it say? What does it mean? It means that according to this graph, the pressure is 0 when you're at a 0 depth. Zero depth means when you're at a surface level, or the sea level, the pressure is 0. Well, not according to our chart here. This quantity is not 0, this is 14. It says even when you are at the surface level, there is some pressure. Of course there is some air pressure. It is 14, it is not 0. So even though it has the right slope, it does not start out with the right way. It does not have the right intercept. It needs to have some intercept. It starts with the origin. Let's look at E, shall we? What does E say? Now, would you be able to articulate this thing? Here's your pressure. Here's your depth. Don't just look for the right answer and be done with it. Have a proper attitude and try to understand it. Put your teeth into it and try to understand it properly. Will you be able to articulate in plain English language what this graph says? If somebody asks you to articulate what it says, would you be able to do that? What does it say? This graph says pressure does not begin to build up until we reach some critical level of depth. It says, according to this graph, if you were to read it, what it says is that you have to reach a certain level of depth. This is the amount of depth. You have to reach a certain level of depth. Whatever this amount of depth is here, however many feet it is, or whatever unit that they're using for depth here, they don't tell you, oh, feet it is. The depth is measured in feet here, so however many feet you go in the water, you have to go a few feet in the water before the pressure begins to build up. That is not the case. The pressure is there even at the 0 feet and begins to build up right away. Pressure begins to build up right away. And it is not 0. According to this graph, the pressure is 0 at this depth. The pressure is not 0 even at the 0 depth. This is no good. The answer is D. The answer is D. Let's look at D. D is the right answer. D is the right graph. D says, here is your pressure, here is your depth, and it says that even when you are at a 0 depth, this is a 0 depth, y-axis is where the depth is 0 because we're measuring depth here, so along y-axis you have a 0 depth because your depth is measured this way. It says even at a 0 depth you have a certain pressure and then it begins to build up. This certain pressure that I showed you is right here. This is 14 right here. This part is 14 and then it begins to build up. The deeper you go, the more the pressure there is. So the answer is D. So one more time, what was wrong with A? A had the wrong slope. It is negatively sloped line. B had the same problem. C does have a positive slope, but it starts at origin. The depth is not zero, it is zero depth. What's wrong with E? E says, E does have a right shape, but in E it says that the pressure begins to build up until you reach a certain critical level of depth, which is a nonsense. It's right there. There is some pressure even at zero depth, even at the surface level of the sea. And therefore the correct answer is D. That's it. I will see you tomorrow and we'll do next problem. Alright? Bye now.